Welcome back to Visual Trigger.
Really gonna make sure that I see sound going. I mean, I know on the sets now why that's so important for that guy to yell out sound speed. Because I think I talked for about 5 minutes and I was only rolling scratch audio and I wasn't rolling the 416 audio, which that sucks. But I mean, now I guess it really is time for some a little bit of scotch. A little Japanese scotch. We can't have let all the Scots have all the fun. And it's not like I drink scotch all the time. I just think it's not going out and going places and doing what I normally do. It's, I don't know, it's kind of starting to wear on me. So, you know, like the best of you, I'll just turn to alcohol. So, street photography. And when I say that, and when I say this, it's not like I think I'm like some fucking authority. It's not that I think I'm a de facto voice, because we all know you kind of had to be one of the guys in public to be a voice, you know? Or one of the other collectives. Whatever the fuck that means. I mean, I don't know if they were trying to be like Magnum, because I mean, Magnum's, yeah, okay, it's a collective, but it's also like a commercial agency. So, and I doubt any of the street photography collectives are actually agencies. In fact, I would bet money that they're not. So, and I know that some people, and I have to remember not to shake this frickin' chair. I have no idea where the little squeak is, and it's kind of a pain in the ass. But whatever, I'll try to be mindful. I'm way more mindful of saying Now I'm working on like, which, don't know. I don't know if I've gotten a little more comfortable just talking to nobody. I mean, it's like your internal dialogue. So we talk to ourselves all the time. Hopefully we're nice to ourselves. If you're not, then then maybe you run like a forum or maybe even a street photography forum. But so, and I think, I don't remember what year it was, but one of the groups discovered I had this PDF that I wrote for DeviantArt because I ran like the street photography part, and that's just for DeviantArt. It's one little platform. I mean, at the time, it was actually about the same size as MTV.com, which is, you know, and I think it was actually bigger than that. Well, anyway, the CEO guy, who's a friend, Angelo, he asked me to define it. Maybe like, because I told him, hey, dude, they're loading fucking pictures of fucking roads, like, and like graffiti. And he said, well, why don't you help define it? So that's why I wrote that PDF. And I included some other friends from all over the world. And it was very well received on DeviantArt, but it inevitably, because it's the web, it made it fucking everywhere. And so all these fucking idiots, they would think that because I wrote that, I thought of myself as like some authority on it, which couldn't be further from the truth. I would never want that. I just want to make the photographs that I want to make in the way I want to make them. I'm not looking for likes. I don't care. I shoot for clients. I've shot for clients. Now I do more motion for clients than I do stills, but I'm not doing it for some fucking audience, right? And but whatever years those were, and I think street kind of died. I think about it a lot, and especially since, you know, I've been thinking about doing this kind of thing. Why it died? It seems as though it got so overexposed because in this time of 2008 through 2012, I don't know if that was the thing to do then, was if that was like the landscape thing, because everyone thought it was easy. And, you know, to be totally honest with you, certain parts of it are totally fucking easy. Um, it's, you know, if you ever, I didn't go to art school, but I know that they do studies, like you would do studies of photography. And I mean, I'm sure art school is good for some people. And you know what? I actually experienced art school through my kid. So I definitely have lots of funny stories about art school and the people who teach at art schools. And she went to art center. It's fucking big. RISD Art Center, uh, the one in New York that's right by my friend's place. I don't fucking remember the name anyway. Well, so when I wrote that thing for DeviantArt, all I did was try to define it, and I mean, I actually wrote it with the CEO's girlfriend at the time, and I mean, I wrote it. I don't know, I don't remember exactly her role in the whole thing, but she's now a really big fancy artist. She or actress. She's she's on like Reese Witherspoon's new Apple thing about news, about like a morning show. I think it's called Morning Show. Her name's Janita. Fucking great girl, amazing actress. But I never meant that to go anywhere other than that. So I never considered myself an authority. I just, as an adjunct to being a photographer, I like to make that kind of photograph. So that's, for me, that's what street photography is. And I'm like, and it's like, why would you call yourself a street photographer? I think if that's all you have and that's all you do, then perhaps. But even then, I mean, I gotta think that if you call yourself that, I'll bet you don't have a job, or you're always between jobs and you live with your parents. Maybe, I don't know. I know that, let's see, like Cartier-Bresson, Booba, Duano, even Meyerowitz, um, they're all commercial photographers. Uh, Gary, what's his face? Commercial photographer, a photojournalist, and he also did adverts. Um, my friend Doug Menuet, fantastic street photographer, but he doesn't call himself a street photographer. He's a award-winning dude who's worked for everybody and done annual reports for the biggest and the best. But like everybody else I said, he did it as a side gig, like an adjunct. And I don't know why you'd ever want to call yourself a street photographer. It almost seems like if you do that, you're probably part of some web group, and that's all you got. Like and I'm not saying it's wrong. It's like, I have an amateur side to myself because you do it because you love it, and that's what amateur means in French. You know, one who does what they love. You know, I'm also a whore. I will work for checks, and I think when you try to say I'm a street photographer, I think you're actually trying to usurp the entire genre to like prop yourself up. And I mean, I don't remember any of their names, but they were like ringleaders of these web groups. And yeah, I made fun of some fucking guy. And I think it's because they felt like they were the only ones who were allowed to make fun of this fucking guy. And I know it was precipitated because I did, like, a friend of mine who had a blog, a friend in Mexico City. I'm pretty candid when I do those things. And I made fun of this fucking guy, and they went ballistic. And, you know, when you watch what they do, anytime they posted, they'd have like a group of dudes who, I don't know, maybe that's all they had in their lives. Maybe their lives were that small that they needed this cadre of ass kissers to I don't know, feel good about themselves, whatever. But they didn't have a right to just be the de facto voice of street photography. I mean, I thought that was in public's job. And I'm not saying they're bad people either. Like some of the work, Nick Turpin, I liked his work. In fact, I should look at. I don't even know what happened to them. And I didn't take computer notes. I wrote them down, and I don't have my freaking glasses because I have no idea where I put them. Oh, yeah. And somehow, someone tried to take street photography to like the curator level. And what they don't understand is, even though these fucking guys will like buy the same eyeglass frames as these curators because they want to make it look like there's some kinship with the kind of eyeglasses they wear because it makes them look more arty. I don't know. But I've talked to some of these curators because of whom some of my clients were in LA. They considered street photography or social documentary realism as completely pedantic. They didn't want, you will probably never see some major show at some major, you just won't see it because I don't think that they appreciate how actually difficult it is to make a really cool frame. Because most curators now are just like MFAs. Like back in the day, curators were actually artists, and I think that has changed things as well. But even when you talk to big people who have galleries and are part of something called AIPAD, they'll tell you like straight up, unless you're fucking Robert Frank, get the fuck out. Like, you're not. I remember, so there was Photo LA, which is a terrible show. I remember seeing someone's work. And now, granted, I had just bought, I forget who, it was like an art shave for like $1,400. I mean, that beautiful frame. Anyway, and and I prefer seeing ones that were taken with film and made in a silver gelatin process. Call me an asshole, don't care. I saw this way over processed shot that I knew was made, I'm pretty sure it was made with an M8, a Leica M8. And you could tell their files are fucking crunchy, especially if you just went overboard with the processing or you didn't know how to process in the first place, which this guy did not have a clue. And I asked, how much is that? And she said, oh, it's $4,800. Now, granted, this gallery, gone now. They used to be in Telluride or one of those places where rich white people go skiing and they're like, fuck it, we need a print to remember this trip by. I thought it was like grizzly bears and fucking eagles or something, but they had a street thing. And I think it went down because someone screwed some other big photographer and he wasn't paid or something. And I don't know. Anyway, I'm not mentioning the photographer's name, but I asked her, I said, what's his auction history? And she's like, well, he doesn't really have one. And I'm all, you're going to tell me that I can go buy that Elliot Irwood over there for like $2,800 and this is $5,000? And I know that it will be at least worth a couple grand when I walk out. And what will that be worth? I'm like, will you buy this back from me in a year if I don't like it on my wall? Well, no, that's really... And I was like, yeah, okay, good luck, you're never selling that. And you'll probably never sell any of his prints. I'll bet I was right. And I'm pretty sure that dude called himself a street photographer too. That's interesting. Yeah, I think he did. I think I remember him referring to himself as that. I mean, it is what it is. And the funny thing about street is unless you get a certain amount of people, I don't know, like I don't know, either follow you or kiss your ass or think you can do so. I don't know, because it seemed to me like the loudest voices were the biggest self promoters. And I mean, if you call yourself a street photographer, I guarantee you, like 99% of the people who say that aren't going to make a fucking dime doing it. And the funnier thing is, a lot of the louder voices I remember from back in those days, I checked, they don't do shit at all. They went back to whatever they were doing for a living, or just faded away from social media, or found something else that propped up their personality. I mean, I think some street photographers will call themselves street photographers because they want to try to monetize it. And I don't know. Unless you have what's called artist participation, you're probably not getting a book deal. And even if you have, let's just say 10 grand, which is a kind of what I know the going rate was at a certain time as artist participation, you may get one. If you can cajole some old senile photographer to write your forward for you, or I don't know, make it worth his while, maybe that'll help too. I'm not so sure. I mean, when you think about it, the founders or the creators, or whatever the fuck you want to call them, they didn't make their money doing street photography. In fact, they probably made their estates made more money, and their estates will make more money, because they were photographers and they got clients and they had magazines they worked for, or whomever. And I don't think they ever, I'll bet you most of them didn't even think they were going to make a dime from these candid snaps in public. Oh shit, I just said in public. Like public candid shit. I don't think they ever thought they were going to make a dime. And I kind of think that who will call street photographers, they're very fickle too. They seem to like flitter around styles. Like they can't just pick one thing and just do it. It seems as though they're all over the map, and whatever their popular icons are doing, they try to emulate that. And you got to think that those guys all get together and say, "Oh, look what they're all fucking doing now." You know, they're all trying to like, kiss my ass. And you know what? I never wanted to make these things too long, so I think there might be a part 2 of this.